Welcome back to my live stream. I'm Hero Serrano, and if you are new to this channel and it's the first time that you get to meet me, I develop game engines. And today, guys, we are going to be basically doing that, working on our game engines. Um, I like to, share everything that I know about game engine development. So if you are new and you're planning to develop your own game engine, feel free to ask any questions related to game engine in that chat, and I'll be happy to answer. All right, guys. So what is the goal that we have for today? Well, last Tuesday, what we actually worked on implementing the first couple of methods for the serializer that we want to implement. Basically, what I want to do is I want to add the functionality that will allow you, game developer, to load all of to save the game objects that you have in a scene into a file and then be able to load them up at a later time. Basically, just add the load and save functionality to the game engine. Now, to do that, I needed to implement a factory class, basically, which will be in charge of creating all of the objects that you have in the scene with the respective classes that has been registered. I also needed to, prepare the data that will be serialized. Basically, let me show you actually my main screen here, because here it shows what we worked on last Tuesday. Basically, we were able to read all of the entities in the scene graph, load the entities properties into a structure, and then load them up into a vector. So before we begin, actually let me run the game engine so you actually get to see what we have as of now. So let me bring up the game engine. Give me 1 second. All right, and just let me make sure that I have, that I'm actually showing you my. Okay, cool. All right. Again, if you are completely new to game engine development and to this channel, I'm Hero Serrano, and I like to share everything that I know about game engine development. If you are new, if you need somewhere to start, what books should you read? I'll be very happy to help you, so I can guide you. Believe me, I was there once, and so I know how it feels to develop a game engine. I've been doing this for a long time now, so I always tell this to people, right? I am not an expert, but I do know a thing or two about game engine development. I've been doing this for 8 years, so throughout all of that time, I have gained experience on what to do and what not to do when developing a game engine from scratch. And I basically develop it from scratch. I don't use any other libraries except for some helper libraries here and there. But aside from that, most of the game engine was developed completely from scratch, starting from the mathematics engine all the way to the collision detection systems. There's no external libraries except some few helper libraries that I had to use. All right, so here is my yes. Let me make sure. Here's my game engine, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna run this, and I'm gonna put a breakpoint here, so that we can actually get to see that to double check that all of the data that we worked on last week is actually being stored. So let me just put a simple stop here. Let's stop. All right, let me just do this. All right, I don't have to do that, but I like to do that. All right, so I'm gonna run this. Everything should be fine. Right, I wasn't expecting to take this long, but here you go. All right, so now what we are going to do, we are going to load up some objects into our scene. All right, and all of those objects are usually will be created by the factory class depending on the register class that I have already in my game engine as a demo. So let me show you the actual models that I have, or the assets, right? So I'm going to select a field asset, and I'm going to assign that to be instantiated with a class of field, right? The factory class knows exactly how to instantiate that object, all right? So I'm going to load the object. Now my player 0, I'm going to instantiate that as object of player. Load it. Then the ball, I'm going to just do the normal U4D model. That's the default. And then let's add some bleachers here. Load asset and boom, right? So now we have everything that we have here. We have the field, the ball, the player, and the bleacher. So we have 4 objects, right? So now when I click save here, what's going to happen is that I should go and the engine should start preparing all of these objects, retrieving the properties such as the position and orientation, the class that it belongs to, and then storing that into a vector. So when I click save, all of that is going to happen, and we're going to end up in the breakpoint. All right. So let's see if that happened actually. And it seems that it is. Cool. So now if we go and we inspect the container, right, that contains all of my data, it has 4. Remember, we had 4 objects. And let's just choose one here. So we have the bleacher. That's the name of the bleacher 2, the name of the model, the class. And here in the position, we have the, the positions X, Y, and Z coordinates, and the rotation, which should be 0, 0, 0. For the next one, and I knew that was going to happen. 1, that should be the ball. Number 2 should be the player. Again, we make sure that this is class type 0, so we're all good, right? So now, to serialize, right, we need to convert all of this data, right? What we are going to do when we serialize, we're going to get all of this data and convert this into a binary file, right? All of these objects will be converted into binary format. So how do we do that, right? Okay, so how we're going to do this is we are going to use this method, and we're going to call this method after all of the operation had occurred. All right. So once we have that, we're going to come here and we're going to convert the entities into binary. All right. So how do we do that? Well, first thing first, we need to include some important files here. So we have included the FTS stream, IO manip, CSTDlib, CSS stream. Let me just make sure that I am actually showing everything here. All right. And everything that we need. Okay, cool. So how do we start this now? Remember, now we have the data, right? Now we need to convert that into binary. That's what we're going to do today. That's our goal. All right. So what we need to do is we need to do something like this. We need to do std. And I'm looking at my notes, by the way, okay? Because, I wanted to be a little bit prepared for this live stream. And this is not something that I do every day, converting data to binary. So I have to look at my notes. So we do off stream, right? And then we call file, and then we provide that u file name. Then std ios out or std ios binary. Boom. All right. So then we have to check if my file is actually successfully if it was found. So std, and we're going to throw an error here. File and then u file name does not exist. Boom. And then we're just going to return false here. Cool. Else, if everything is good, then we go on and we start writing our data. All right, but before I forget, I'm going to return true. And what I'm going to do, because I tend to forget whenever I work with this, is I'm going to close the file. All right, something that good practice. So what we are going to do, if the file was found, um, is we're going to start writing in the data into our file. But the first thing that we need to do is we need to store how many objects are in the scene graph and how many are we going to actually store in our file. We need to know that so that when we read back that data, we know exactly how many objects we are going to read back, right? So the first thing that we're going to do is write the number of assets, models, for example. All right. So how we're going to do this is this int number of models size, and it's going to be int. And then what we need to do is we need to pass this. So it's going to be, sorry, let's move this over here. We need to get the size of my container. That size, boom. All right. That's my size. So now we're gonna write this file that write, and then we need to do a char, and we need to provide the address of that guy, number of models size, and then size of int. All right, boom, that should be it for that. All right, so now this should actually store the number of models that we have. All right, so let's test this, right? Let's test if all of this is actually working out how we want it to work. All right, so for now we are going to call, after we have prepared the data, what we're going to do, we're going to call this method, and we're going to provide the file, all right, the binary file. All right, so it's going to be convert entities to binaries, and for that, let me just store this into here. Users, Harold Serrano, and downloads, and then the file that I'm going to store it in is actually going to be called my bin file, something like that. My bin for binary .u4d, boom, and that is it. All right, so now I actually, let me erase this here. All right, so here's my file here, my bin.file. All right, so now when we run this and we save it, we should see the number of entities that we actually are storing into our file, right? We're gonna do this just for testing purposes right now, nothing more than that, all right? So let's run this and let's see how it goes. And hopefully I don't run into errors. And as this is building, you know, I want to answer some questions that I tend to get related to game engine development. But before we do that, let's do this really quick. Okay, so we're going to basically, let's load up three different assets here. And we don't really care about the class type yet. All right, so there's three, all right? So we're gonna save this. And again, we should see something in our file, and boom, there's three, right? Now this is in binary, but Sublime Text has this plugin that will allow you to go from hex to actually it's a hex viewer. So basically, you know, this is 3 by 3, so we're good with that. If I were to add one more, for example, let's say that I add this one, then let's add this one over here. Let's add more, just for the heck of it. All right. Boom. Field goal, load assets. All right, so now, for example, if I were to rotate this, we will see that. All right, so now let's save this and let's see what happens. Ideally, we should see that number change here, all right? But something that I noticed is that Sublime would not update anything until you actually go back and forth with the hex viewer. So now we have 9 supposedly, and how many objects do we have? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Cool. So right now we are storing all of the number of actually models that we have in our scene graph. Now what we need to do is store the properties of each of those models in binary format. That's what we need to do today. All right. So let me stop this and let's see how we're going to do this. All right. So first of all, we know the number of models that we have in our scene graph. So which means that we're going to use that to iterate through the vector container and start writing all of our data. All right, so we're going to do this for auto const auto and entity serialized data container. Right. So here, for example, class type, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. All right, so here we're going to write all of that data. So first of all, the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to get the name of our models, okay? Write the names of our model. All right. So again, I do have some notes here. Hey, Zach, how are you, dude? How's it going? I'm here, basically implementing a serializer for my game engine. And, we're going through all of the implementation. Right now, I'm basically writing I'm converting all of the data that I have prepared into binary data, which will be saved into a file. So right now, what we're going to do is we're going to store the names of our models. After we are done with this, then we are going to go ahead and store the properties of each of our model. But I like to go step by step as I'm developing stuff. So now I'm looking at my notes here because, like as I mentioned earlier, I don't get to do this often, like writing data into binary. So I need to look into my notes. So first of all, we need to get the length of our model name. So model name length. And we're going to get this. Oh boy. Get the size of the string. So, and that's name, that size. Oh, cool. I can get the size from that. Cool. Now, once I know the size, then I need to actually write that size into my binary file. And you are going to see something a little bit weird now. But I'm going to explain it to you why I need to do that. So I get the address of model length, and then the size of, and then, okay. So now you're going to notice here that we got the length of our name, the string, the length of the string, right? And we're going to write that, right? Once I have that, the length, and now I need to do another write, which actually will write the actual value. So in this case, it's going to be, and that name, that's 0, and then my model name length. So we need to do both to write number 1, because when we are writing it, when we are reading it back, we need to know exactly the size of my string, right? So I know how many bytes to go ahead and read from. Okay, so this will basically store the names of our models, all right? So let's test this out. Let's see if this works. Basically, what's going to happen is that when we run this, we should see some more data here showing up, all right, into in our binary file. Hi, I would like to tell you I have seen your whole evolution of your game engine, and I would like to say it was a long journey. Thank you, Zach. Yes, it has been. It has been a very, very long journey. I'm actually surprised that I have lasted this long. It's been over 8 years. But throughout the whole development of the game engine, I just felt in love with game engine development. So I honestly don't see myself doing anything else from aside from game engine development. Um, there were many ups and downs throughout the whole process, but I think I'm over the hill now in the terms that I know that this is what I want to do, and I feel that nothing's gonna stop me. Like I'm just gonna go ahead and do it, regardless of how long it's gonna take me. So thank you for for being a subscriber. Appreciate it. Hey Arlen, how are you, dude? All right, so let's do this. Let's run this. So let's load up 3 models into the game engine, and then let's see if I'm able to load all of that names of these models into my binary file first. All right. So again, let's do the field, load assets, player, and the ball. All right. So what we should see when I click save, I should actually add something that would actually tell me if everything was successful. What we should see now is that if I go to my binary file, we should see the names of the files of the models that I added. All right, but in binary format, it's just like what you see right here, right now. All right. So now, just like I told you, Sublime Text has this nice little plugin which will allow you to toggle between hex and normal English, right? So if I do Control Shift Command Shift B, I can go and toggle this. So now, as you can see, we have the names of our models here, right? The ball, this is hex format, and then the player, and then the field. So it's working. So now you may be wondering, why am I serializing all of my data into binary and not XML or JSON? And the main reason is that it takes a while for your computer to actually parse through the XML elements and JSON elements. So if you want something that will load up really quick and really fast, there's nothing more faster than binary format, right? So this, whenever you are loading your models into your scene after you have saved them, the whole loading will happen really quick, right? Very, very quick. So this is why I'm doing it with binary and not with XML or JSON. All right, so we have the the names. But what we need to do now is we need to add, store also the class type. So write the class type. Once we're done with that, we need to write the position. And then we're going to end with writing the orientation. All right, cool. So the class type is going to be almost similar as this guy because it's a string that we're storing, right? So I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here. I'm just going to change this model type. Let's call it model type. And this is going to be called class type. Class type, model, class type, and again here we need to store the size, and here we do the same thing, class type, boom, and that is it. So that would actually store my class type. Cool. So now let's do the position also. The position. I know I didn't mention this. I actually had to do some changes from my previous live stream. But basically, in my previous live stream, I implemented the position as a vector, but I had to change that in. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I changed that in. I changed it from my U4D vector 3n, which is part of the engine, into a normal vector container. That's what I ended up doing last time. So, but I had to do that because this is way better. So write the position. All right. So basically, we need to store the x, y, and z position of the object. So how do we do that? Well, let's do this. And position size, and then what we're gonna do is end and that position, and I'm looking at my notes, guys. That size, boom, because that's a vector. Actually, I should show you how that looks so you understand what I'm doing. So let me go into my constant and let me go into my command protocols. So here's basically the structure declaration for that data that I'm serializing. My position is a vector of floats, and my rotation as well. Right. So what I'm doing here, I'm just getting the size of my vector basically. All right, so now what I need to do is file write char and then my position size and then size of and all right. And then after I do that, then I need to basically do file that write char and that position 0 and now position size times my size of, and then this has to be float. All right, cool. So that should store actually my position for my characters. All right, so let's test this out. Let's see if this actually works. So in this case, what we're going to do, we're going to store only one object. All right, so let's get the player. Let's load this player up and let's keep track of the position here. It's negative 9.3, 0.2, 4.8. All right, so let's save this. All right, so I should only see one. And let me just toggle this. Okay, so player, that's the name of my player. And I do get my U4D model, but now I wonder where am I storing my actual position, because this is gonna be tough to actually decode. This is gonna be fun to decode. Oh, hold on. I think I got it. So, negative 2.82, negative 9.316. How do we actually get this? all of these numbers. So we have byte, word, float. Huh, 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 huh. I was not expecting this. All right, so but what I can do is actually move this to 0, 0 and actually see something like that. All right, let me move this guy to 0. Now let me do it from code because I don't think I have enabled that in. Let me do it here. Oh, I cannot even do it from there. Okay. Okay, let me move it here. Translate to 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay. I'm going to do several tests here with numbers that I know the value in binary because I don't know about you, but I do not know the value of -9 in binary. So, all right, so I'm going to load up my player as class player, and that should open 0, 0, 0. And now if I actually go here, I should see a 0, 0, 0. All right, that's good. All right, so now let me click save. And that should actually, let me just toggle this. Okay, player. All right, so I can see that all the positions are 0, but we don't know that yet completely. So I'm gonna have to, I cannot write here, so I haven't enabled that. All right, so let me just put it here, 1, 2, and 3. All right, let's see. I just need to make sure that all of that data is being stored properly. All right, so let me go here, player again. Player load asset, cool. Now let's save this. And let me just talk about this again. Boom. I wonder because it is because it is float. All right, you know what? I'm gonna do something here. All right. So let me bring up my data here. Boom, and let me save this again, and I should go into that breakpoint right now. Let me come here. All right. Boom, load the asset, and I should stop at my breakpoint. All right, so let's see. My position here should be stored properly. 1, 2, 3. And yeah, it should be fine, unless the only way that I can figure this out if I'm doing it correctly is if I have to read it back, obviously. But let's say that this is how you have to do it, because I have done this before. So I'm going to trust that this is the right way to do it. All right, so now let me do the actual orientation now, which is almost very similar to this now. All right, so we're gonna do this. Let's just hope that this is how we do the position. All right, and I am very positive that that's how you do it, because I had to do it before. Orientation size, position size, orientation. So that's how I have it. Well, I have it as rotation. It should not be a rotation. It should be should be orientation, not rotation. All right. So let's change things here. Orientation. And I'm gonna call this orientation. All right, cool. So now there should be orientation too. All right, so orientation. Orientation. All right, cool. Okay, so this is what we have. Now we need to test this. All right, and obviously supplying text is not being really helpful. So what I need to do is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to write another set of code that will basically go ahead and read my data back. And let's see how we can do that, because we do need to test if everything is actually working properly. All right. All right. So read data back. Now, how am I gonna do this? Well, like I told you guys before, I already had done this before. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use an example that I had from a little tool that I had to write for my game engine. So it's basically same thing that I've been doing. So let's do this really quick. All right. I'm going to copy this because this is what we need to do to read it. And this is basically file name, and we're going to end, which means reading it. And we're going to start here and file name. All right. The first thing that we're going to do is we are actually going to read how many models we have in our thing. So basically how you do this is something like this. All right, so read the number of models in our scene, right? So number of models in the size, and this should be file, read, number of models. All right, boom, size of int. Now, depending on the number of models, we are going to do a for loop, and we're going to go ahead and start reading all of our data. All right, so, oh wow. Let's call this number of models size ready. All right, so So for int I equals to 0, actually, you know what? Actually, you know what? You know what? We're gonna need to do this either way. So why even? Let me do it like this, so that way we don't bool read binary to entities. I have a better name for this. Serialize, and this one we're gonna call it deserialize. Deserialize. All right, and this one I'm gonna need my std, the string u file name. So I'm gonna do those changes here too. All right, so serialize. Serialize there, cool. All right, so here we're going to add another one here, bool for the serializer, deserialize. All right, and here what I need to add is my argument. All right. Hey guys, and if you have any questions related to game engine development, feel free to ask me anything that you may, any questions that you may have. Be happy to answer them. Hey, El Turco, how are you, dude? You're from Argentina. I'm from Ecuador. Hey, good luck on Saturday, man. So that's gonna be a really good game, dude. So I'm looking forward for that game. All right, so in here, we are going to basically read the data back. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to remove this that I was doing here. And put it here because this is where we need it. So we're going to read the data back. Deserialize the data basically. And boom, boom. All right, file. So first of all, we're going to read the number of models that we have in our scene. And now depending on that, then we're going to go into a for loop, and then we're going to iterate through the whole thing. All right. So let me go here because I already did this. So the first thing that we're going to do, and again, I already did this before in a tool that I had to build for my game engine, and I don't want to reinvent the wheel. Number one, doing this whole writing to binary and reading to binary is not something that you do often. So you have to look for reference on how to do this. So first of all, that we're going to do is we're going to read the names of our models. All right. So here I have the reference here. So I'm going to refer to this as I'm typing. All right. So first of all, let's read the names of our model. All right. So we're going to do size t, model name length. It's going to be 0. Then we're going to do file.read and char, and then we need to provide that address, model name length, then the size of model name length. All right, so at this point I have read the length of the string. All right, so Now, what I need to do here, I'm gonna create basically this structure right here, which will be in here. And this one's going to be the serialized data. All right, so what I'm going to do is entity deserialized data name that resides to model name length. All right, that should be that. And then file that read char and I know that the name of my structure is way too long, but I'm gonna do it like that. So model name length. Cool. All right, and let's see. It should work. All right, but either way, let's test this out. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a logger here that will print out the data into MGUI. All right, so let me just declare u for the logger, u for the logger shared instance. All right, so logger log, and then here we need to get the name entity. Let's just call it model data, dude, because this is just, oh man. All right, it's way too long. Model data that name. Boom. All right. Return true here. All right, so again, right now I'm just doing testing, guys. So I'm just doing. I'm not making sure that I'm calling everything properly. All right, I just want to know that all of my writing and reading to from binary is correct. All right, before I go ahead and clean everything up. So basically I'm ignoring the return true, return false, all of that. All right. I just want to make sure that everything is working. So now when I click save, what I should get back is the yeah, okay, the name of one character of one model. Right. So one of the popular questions that I tend to get often, from new game engine developers, is how long is it going to take me to develop a game engine, right? Again, it's going to depend on what type of game engine you want to develop, right? If you want to develop a 2D, a 2D game engine with without any physics or collision detection system, That's going to take you, in my opinion, it should take you about, I don't know, 6 months to a year. But if you want to develop a 3D game engine, right, with everything, right, with rendering, collision system, physics, particle system, camera system, all everything included, per my experience, that took me about it took me about 5 years to develop, 3 years to develop the basic framework, 5 years to get it to a stable point. And I'm still working on my game engine all this time. So what I can say is that if you're going to develop a 3D game engine and you have high expectations and big goals, big dreams, be ready to put in a lot of time into your game engine. It's not something that you can develop overnight or within a year or 2 years. It's not going to happen. It's just, there's so much code that you have to write, so many things that you have to implement, that it's just impossible for you to say that you're going to have a game engine within a year. I don't care if you're a 10 times 10x engineer. It's not going to happen. Just a pure testing that you have to do will take a lot of time. And the testing is not just doing unit testing, right? You need to test by developing a game, and just a pure act of developing a game will take time. And I actually developed a soccer game, and I found many issues with my game engine. And just developing a game again, it's going to take you at least 3 months to develop a simple game. So the more complex your game engine is, the more testing you will have to do, the more time those testing will take. And yeah, so if you are thinking, right, should I develop a game engine or a game, then, well, it all depends on also what you want to focus on. To develop a game engine, you are going to require a different set of skills than what a game developer requires. Right, a game developer, he needs to know what makes a game fun and entertaining. What type of mechanics to implement. A game engine developer is more into the mathematics and the algorithms and the architecture of a game engine. So you need to ask yourself, what do you really like, right? Do you really like to go deep into the development world and the engineering world and understand exactly how everything works? Or do you just want to make games and make cool, game mechanics and make entertaining games? Those are two different talents, right? For example, guys, I suck at making games fun and entertaining. I don't have it in me. I have, tried, and it's not my passion. It's not in me. But what I do like to do is develop tools for game developers to use. That is what I really enjoy and what I really feel I have a passion for, a talent for. So you need to think about that, and also the opportunity cost, right? We're developing a game engine that will take you 5 years to build. Think about the opportunity cost that you are letting go, right? You could be making a game within that time. I believe, oh my god, what was that game? Of this guy that developed a game, something Valley. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot the name. But he developed a game within that time and he made millions of dollars, right? So you need to think about the opportunity cost. What are you letting go by putting all of your effort and energy into a game engine that, let's be honest, may not be ready within 5 years. So think about that, a lot before you start developing a game engine. In my opinion, in my case, I'm very happy with the decision that I took one day about regarding developing a game engine. It has made me really, really happy. This is something that I truly enjoy. It feels that void in me, right? And I work on my game engine every single day, guys. whenever I have some time free, my time for me, right, to relax is working on my game engine. And that, to some people may seem kind of weird, because why would a relaxing time, why would your relaxing time be coding, right? But coding relaxes me, right? It calms me down. It makes me happy. So um, there's so many different things that you have to consider before you get into developing a game engine. It's something that you're going to be doing it for a long time. So think about that. Yeah. So, and I was hoping this was going to build a lot faster, but obviously it is not building as fast as I imagined. So we're going to have to wait a little bit longer. And I do not know if this is if live stream is the best way to share with you guys, everything that I know about game engine development. I'm hoping, that it's helping you guys. I really hope so. So I've been, testing out, developing, creating videos, uploading videos, or now, doing live streams. I felt that, that I had that I want to share with you a lot of things, and I don't want to keep it to myself, and right, just coding in my room and not sharing with you everything that I have to go through as I develop my game engine, because I'm pretty sure that you're gonna find something interesting, something that's gonna help you. Hey, but yeah, how are you, dude? How's it going? All right, so let's see. Oh man, so I will only be able to load up one file, and I will explain to you why that is. All right, so load assets, and I'm gonna save it, and we should see the name of the player, which is player 0, in here. All right, boom, player 0. Um, it's right here, and basically that should be the data that was stored here. Now, the reason why I told you that I would not be able to load up more files here, more, models, is because of how I have structured my data here in my serializer. In my serializer, I'm basically, writing the name of the model, the class type, the position, the orientation, right? In my test that I'm doing right now, where I read the names of the model, right, you need to consider all of the sequence of everything that you are storing, right? If I were to add another model, right, and I would read back the data, I would not read back the name of the second model anymore, right? Because the whole sequence of data, or the order of data, is the name, class type, position, and blah, blah, blah. When I read back the data, or what I'm doing is read the model, right? And then I'm going to say, okay, for the next one, if you have two, go back and read the other model, but this time I'm going to get a bunch of garbage. And as a matter of fact, let me show you, let me prove to you that that's what's going to happen. So when you are working with binary, you need to take that into account. The order and what you are storing and what you're reading back. The order is very important. If you move things around, everything will stop working. So let me actually load up the model, and let me load up the field, and let me load up the ball, right? So now you're going to see that only one object will be shown with the proper name, all right? And boom, I actually got an exception, and yep, that's actually what I was expecting too. So yeah, see, that failed. However, watch this. I'm gonna bet you that. Hold on, let me do this, because I'm curious to see if I actually got that number properly. layer, load asset, ball, and field, and then I'm gonna save this, and I'm gonna go into my breakpoint, and that should be 3. Yeah, that should be 3. All right, so let me go into my first one. Oh wow, man, I actually went and started complaining. Huh. All right, we're gonna figure that out. All right, let's go ahead and now, so read the name of our model. Now what we need to do is read the class type of the model. All right, so it's gonna be something very similar to this. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel, so let's call this model class type. Model class type. All right. This one model, nah, this one should be class type. Type. Class type. And this one should be class type also. All right, so that's that. So now let's read it back. Now let's read the position. Read the position. All right. Let's see how I'm gonna do that. All right. So how we're gonna do that is we're gonna do this int position size equals to 0. File.read char position size of int. Right, and this is a vector. Remember, position is a vector, how I'm storing it in binary. So vector float, okay, float temp position, position size 0. I'm loading it with 0, and then model data that position temp position. So basically here I'm copying my temp data into the vector, into the position vector. All right, and then file.read char, boom. This one is gonna be model data that position 0, and then I need the size. So position size times size of float. All right, cool. So that's for the position. All right, so now for the orientation, it's going to be basically the same. So let's do that. All right. Again, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here. So, what I have to do here is that read the orientation. So here we're just going to change this orientation temp orientation dot size All right, hopefully this works, guys. Hopefully this works. Temp. Um, all right, so now my model data has all of that, or everything that I need. All right, so let's see. How are we going to do this? Okay, so here we're printing out everything out. Okay, print data out. All right. Now let's go name of model. Boom. Class type. Boom. Model data that class type that boom boom. Okay, now for the other position and everything, what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually create a vector here for the vector pulse here, and we're going to call it like this: model that data that at 0. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing for the orientation. So let's call this orient. All right. All right. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, oh, the logger cannot read that. Okay. I didn't want to do that. I actually want the logger to show me the data. Log position. So let's call the F. And I want exactly this then. This is what I want. And for the next one, I basically want the same thing, but I want the orientation. All right, and I basically want this. All right, so let's see if this works, guys. All right, let's see. Again, we are going to save the data into our file, and then we are reading it back, just to make sure that everything actually works. All right, so this is the moment of truth. Let's see if everything works. If not, we are doomed. How long did I load it? Okay, cool. All right, so let's keep track. Let's see what shows up in here, all right? Because that's what basically what's gonna happen. So I'm gonna click save, and booyah, there you go. All right, so we have basically all of the data that we store. So my field, class type, U14 model, the position, and I do not know if you guys can see this, but I'm gonna actually, I'm basically checking the position of my field here with what I have here, and negative 5.6, 0.2, My orientation is 0. How about soccer ball? My soccer ball class type, negative 5.7, 0.6. So it seems that everything is actually working as we expected. We are actually able to serialize all of the data in the scene, right? Serialize it into a binary file here. Let me just toggle this, right? This is the data that was stored. I'm going to toggle back here so we can actually see everything. We were able to store the name, the class type, the position, and the orientation, right? And now we are also able to read it back, right? Now, let's see if I actually, sure, I don't have a remove, but let me run this again then. So basically, we can serialize the data and deserialize the data. Now, the next step that we have to do is, once I have my deserialized data available, I need to go ahead and load up all of those models into my scene again. Because the idea is obviously that I want that developer to be able to save the data, close the engine, then later, next day or whatever, open up the engine again and be able to load up all of that data that he saved, right? Just by pointing at the file and clicking load, right? So that's the whole idea. So player, let's load the assets, boom. That's for my utility model, load asset, and then the field should be field. All right, cool. So now if I click save again, I should see all of that data. My field is of class type field. The model, and I hope you guys can see this, but I'm actually pointing over here into my output window. And I'm just making sure that all of that data is actually proper. Actually, the position that we wrote earlier, just to check if my binary data was properly written, is shown up here. My position 1, 2, and 3. Remember that it actually ended up doing that here. Over here, it's actually being shown there, so that's good. It means everything works. So basically, guys, we were able to serialize the data and deserialize it. Now, the next step that I'm going to do, and hopefully I can do this on Sunday in my next live stream, we're going to capture this data, read it, which we already have done, but now we are going to add it to our scene graph, so everything shows up. And one more thing that I will have to do is I will have to go ahead and add a dialog box, right, that will allow me to go ahead and select the file that I want to open. Basically something like this, right, that I will go ahead and go into my file and read it, point to that file that I want to open and open up that file, and everything should load up. So yeah, so this seems to be working as of now, so this is cool. So all right, guys, thank you so much for joining my live stream. I'm gonna try to go live again on Sunday around this time, 10 p.m. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. Also join my Discord server. And if you have any questions related to game engine development, please feel free to ask. If I cannot answer it, I'm pretty sure someone in my server will be able to help you out. There are people in my server that know more about game engine development than I do, so they have more experience, and they're the perfect people to help you. All right, guys, thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.